should be a high priority.
Well, some people say yes, some people say no, and it depends. I mean, look, our roads are awful. We need to do something around here. But the reason you're here, first of all, let me ask you about the economy right now. You're a tech billionaire. You've been out there. You've been in the mix of Silicon Valley and these folks. You know, the people and the people that are investing in this country, people that are scared right now. We've seen the stock market go down dramatically. It's up, I think, going to be 700 or 800 points to start the day today. But what's your general take on everything that's happening?
Well, that's great news. I'm really glad you're the first person I'm hearing about this. The market's going to open up higher today, which is super cool because, the past few days has been pretty rough. And everybody's kind of hoping that President Trump knows what he's doing, that he's surrounded by the brilliant advisors that he says he has. And I hold out hope. I think his action is extraordinarily bold and historic. And I really have a lot of faith that I have faith at the moment that this is what he's doing is ripping the Band-Aid off, and it's going to be a great reset for everybody. It just might be a little painful in the short term, and maybe only a couple of weeks. The fact that the stock market's already up higher today, that's very, very reassuring to me.
Well, Scott Bessent says as many as 70 countries have already come calling saying, hey, let's make a deal. So that's a pretty good start. Howard Lutnick, Scott Bessent, these are pretty smart fellas, also billionaires, guys that have done very well, understand the markets, understand the economy far better than the average person. And so we do hope that they're on the right path. One of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, though, today is because of cancel culture. You and your wife, Layla, have launched a new podcast called Erased that'll highlight stories of people who have been experiencing cancel culture, which seems to be over in large part, by the way, because Meta, Facebook, yesterday got rid of their censors, if you will. Twitter got rid of their censors for the most part. I mean, there's still people out there that fool with it, but not the way they did 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, this really impacted you, didn't it?
Yeah, my wife and I have personally experienced cancellation attempts on 3 separate occasions. My wife, the first 2 associated with her school. We own a school in Miami called Centner Academy, and she took some very strong positions on COVID vaccines and mandates, the masking and all that kind of stuff, and got literally global attention. It went to the White House, and the media really tried to take her down. And then myself, more recently, probably associated with that, having to do with a very large donation that we were trying to make to the city of Miami, and that donation got embroiled in a political scandal unconnected to us, but the media, some media specifically, took this as an opportunity to put their foot on our neck with some very faulty reporting, and our reputation has been damaged. There's some real damages here, and we happen to own a company called Erase.com, coincidentally acquired before our own personal controversies, and it's in the reputation management space. We deploy a lot of tactics to improve and repair people's reputations, and then the idea for the podcast Erased with an exclamation mark, which launched yesterday with Alan Dershowitz as our first guest, is an opportunity for people to come on and share their own personal stories of cancellation, how they navigated their way through it, how they kept their head on straight, the friends and family lost along the way, the emotional journey and heartache and financial hardships. And it's extraordinarily vulnerable, quite entertaining. I think it's a really important show, and the idea is to shine light on these things because these people have not had an opportunity to share their stories elsewhere. So this is a first of its kind podcast.
First of all, a quick comment about Miami. What a remarkable city. People don't realize Miami is one of the safest, if not the safest, big city in America. So I tip my hat to Mayor Suarez there, who continues a good work there in Miami. But let me talk about cancel culture, because it wasn't just people that got canceled completely. It was people like myself who were basically throttled down, shadow banned, if you will. Couldn't pick up any followers, couldn't get anybody to look at my page because I was in the same place you were, questioning what was going on with COVID, questioning about masks and vaccines and all these things that your wife was doing as well. And just basically making it so nobody could see you. They didn't cancel you outright, they just made you invisible in many ways, people like me. That's just as bad. Did you ever think you would live in a place or a time in America where censorship was the rule of the day?
It's so un-American, and it's bizarre, and what the tactics of the Biden administration were deploying to effectively censor and eliminate the rights of free speech by controlling the social media companies, it's just outright wrong. And I would disagree with you. Cancel culture is not over. In fact, I read an article this morning in preparing to come on your show. There's some protesters, left-leaning protesters, and they were asking them what did they what do they want to see in America, and they want to be able to speak freely. So the fact that cancel culture has affected people in the past is really bad for all of us because can happen to anybody, left, right, doesn't matter. If people have a reluctance to actually speak their mind, then cancel culture is certainly in as strong force as it has ever been.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. It's the First Amendment of the United States Constitution is the envy of the world. I've believed that my entire life. Whether it's the freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of religion, freedom to gather, all the things that in the First Amendment are the envy of the world. And for anybody to say, well, it's okay, you know, if it offends somebody, we should get rid of it. Look, offensive speech is why we created the First Amendment. It wasn't for happy talk. It was for things that made people angry or upset or made them, you know, emotional. That's what the First Amendment's there to protect. And that's what the beauty of America is, the robust exchange of ideas. Anything less than that is un-American, like you said.
Okay, you know, it's so what's the root cause? Like, how did we get here? And I think this is super complicated. I think it goes back many decades, and a lot of it has to do with the changes in the media, where the media journalists are now not just required to speak say the who, what, where, when, and why. Now they're like allowed to take a position. And then you had the advent of the internet, where they just changed the financial model completely, and then we see clickbait and just the relentless search for profits and just trying to get audiences. And so media outlets almost had to take a position and had to get titillating. And then the social media properties came. It's just really confusing and it's a real mess. And I'd like to see a rewind where the newspapers and mainstream media is required just to report the news, just simply tell us how it is, and we get to decide our own position.
What a concept. Just tell people some facts, let them decide. Don't put your hand or your foot on the scale. Wouldn't that be a concept, David? Quite remarkable. By the way, the podcast is Erased. It's a brand new podcast with David and his wife, Layla. People, I assume, can find it in all the usual places.
All the usual places, you name it, we've got it. Today's an exciting day. Today we're actually taping Papa John, pizza fame, who he himself ran
Oh,
into
yeah.
some issues with some racist comments years ago. And I understand there's two sides to this story. It may not be exactly as we've been has been shoved down our throats, and that's what's really cool. We're not the judge and the jury, my wife and I, as hosts, but it is an opportunity for people to share their side of the story and let people come to their own conclusion. Because there
Yeah.
is more to every one of these stories.
Papa John has been a guest on this show a number of times from Columbus, Ohio. Good man that he is. David, look, really appreciate you being here. David Sentner, you can look up the podcast Erased. You come back anytime, my friend. Really
best.
enjoyed it.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. Have a great day.
You too, my
Okay.
friend. There you have it. All right, so David Sentner, billionaire. Easy pass for your car. When I come back, Nick Hopwood. We're going to talk about the markets in a moment.
With the Michigan
All right, for those of you with indigestion from watching the markets bounce all over Thursday, Friday, and yesterday a bit of a reprieve, and today looks like it's going to be in the green, as we talked about. But Nick Hopwood leads a team of certified financial planners at Peak Wealth Management. You know, it's great to have a team of advisors working together to develop a plan for you. And one of his bits of advice is keep to the plan, stay the course. Do not panic. Do not hit the panic button. Nick, welcome back to the program. Nice to see you.
Steve, thanks for inviting me.
Now, you said Sunday was a bit of a tough night because you thought it was going to be down 5% 3 days in a row, but as it turns out, Monday, not too bad at all. What, down 300 points, something like that. Today, looking at the futures, 700, maybe 800 points on the plus side. Have things settled down maybe for a moment?
A little bit. You know, we have a little bit of optimistic action here in the markets, but I just, recommend that everyone take a deep breath. Trust the plan is my mantra in times like this. Trust the plan that the president has put together, and trust the financial plan that your advisor has put together. And if your advisor hasn't done a plan for you, then maybe look for a change. Look
for somebody different. All right, so let's talk about, you got some visuals here for the folks watching on streaming and watching on Real America's Voice and elsewhere. You've got some educational aids, as it were. So let's go through these.
Yeah, Steve, this chart is nothing new. We've all seen it before. And, I just want to bring it up because I think that this market action is not all about tariffs, even though that's the headline risk. It comes back to the fact that we've been running $2 trillion deficits while tax receipts are up. We really need to cut $1 trillion out of the government spending. And if we have a $30 trillion economy, $1 trillion is a 3% cut, and that's a recession. So, we want the government spending down, but, the hard medicine could be the recession, and the tariff is just, one of the symptoms that we're seeing right now.
Sure. I mean, look, during COVID, they were pumping in literally trillions of dollars being pumped into the economy globally. Here in America, in other countries, just pumping in, play money, monopoly money from all over, just pumping it in, pumping it in. Look, that was fantasy land. It wasn't real. It's time for an actual reset, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is for sure. And this is that hard medicine. I think Trump knows that he has to do it immediately. And then we have a nice rebound into next year. And then, the election is in November and people have short memories. So if he has this max pain as early on as possible, the midterms can look good for him.
Well, absolutely. I mean, look, we talked about 1987 here in the break just before you came on. And you said a year later it was up 28%. If we're up 28% a year from now, Donald Trump will command the midterms, won't he?
Yeah, and Anthony, if we have that chart here, we can show here we go. This is a chart showing 2-day declines in the magnitude that we saw on Thursday and Friday. So we were minus 10% at the end of the week. We don't know what's going to happen 1 year from now, but each time we've had an event like this in 1987, 2008, and 2020, we had huge rebounds 1 year and beyond. And like you said, on Black Monday in 1987, plus 28% a year later.
Right. So, I mean, look, we've been through these things before. 2008 and 9 was terrible. 2020 and 2022 wasn't much of a year either, to be fair. Let's be honest with that. We got another chart here as well. Look, here's where people really make mistakes. I made this mistake once a long time, maybe about 2008 or 9. I got panicked and I said, put me on the sideline. And all of a sudden, everything came back in and everything went up, and I missed the upside, right? Happened.
Yeah, well, Steve, in 2008, you were a young whippersnapper, so you could have been thinking more opportunistically and adding more in, okay, because you didn't need the money for decades.
Correct.
But now, imagine if you're retired today, okay? For you, I don't know how far away that is, but imagine, 10 years from now, you're retired, and now we're relying on our portfolio for income. Well, as you can see on this chart, if we need income right now, we don't want to have any market risk. However, if we're looking at the part of the portfolio that we don't need for 10 or 20 years, like at the bottom of the chart, we can be more growth oriented. And that growth account is getting hit right now, but you don't need it for so long. It's okay.
So again, you come back to trust the plan.
Correct. And for all our retirees, this is the type of plan that we put together where the money that we need in the next 2 years is in the money market and treasury bills. The money that we need in 5 or 10 years can be more moderate risk. Beyond 10 years, we can be more growth oriented. Imagine you're walking through the forest and you see blue skies and everything's fine because your income is good. But several miles down the road, you've got a raging forest fire going on. But by the time you get to that point in the forest, it'll be green shoots and blue skies again because that portfolio would have recovered.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about a couple of the fundamentals here. Inflation now, from everything I can read and understand, less than 2%. We haven't seen that in a while. Hiring is on the rise, a bigger jobs number than expected. The price of oil is down. The price of gasoline is coming down. And therefore the price of a lot of things is coming down. So there's no inflation, right? The energy's coming down, and therefore the price of groceries and so forth are coming down. So a lot of the fundamentals in the economy are good. So that leads me to ask the question, will the Fed reduce interest rates? Because if that happens, and because you sent me a column yesterday, and I read about how the money on the sidelines wants to come back in badly. We've only got about a minute here, but it looks like there's enthusiasm to come back into the market. If the interest rates are dropped and gas is cheaper and oil's cheaper and energy's cheaper, that'd be a really good time to be in the market, wouldn't it?
It would, especially at these levels after we just wiped out a year of gains. There's no question inflation is going to come in at 0.1 for March. So inflation is coming down, and that gives the green light to the Fed. So Steve, coming into this year, we thought there might be 1 or 2 rate cuts. And now the updated expectations are 4 rate cuts between now and the end of the year. And we know that we want the Fed on our side, right? And so with the lower inflation, it gives them the green light.
Yeah.
So that's another positive for markets going forward.
You can find out more at peakwm.com. You can talk to my friend Nick over there, by the way. You can watch him on YouTube, too. Peak Wealth Management. You can find them, MGMT. Peakwm.com. Look it up. Get a second opinion. Stay the course. Keep the plan. Do not panic. Thank you, Nick. I think you helped some folks out today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Really appreciate it. Look, again, we're going to watch the numbers here through the rest of the program, but they look pretty good right now. I'll be right back. All right, here, I hadn't looked at the price of oil in a while. The price of West Texas Intermediate, $61 a barrel. Brent crude, which is basically the benchmark, $64.50 a barrel. Wow, last time I looked, it was in the high 70s to low 80s. So oil prices are cheap today, to say the least. Gas on its way down, $3.19 where I am, $2.85 in Texas, so below $3 a lot of places. Look, energy, cheap energy is the key to a great economy in many regards. Vast quantities of cheap American energy make America run. We should not be relying on foreign countries. We should not be relying on foreign countries that don't like us for energy, and so let that be a lesson to you, America. Speaking of let that be a lesson to you, this part of the program brought to you by my great friends at Hillsdale. History, economics, the great works of literature, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution. Did you study these things in school? Probably, but even if you did, it's probably time for a refresher, wouldn't you say? Time and technology have changed a lot, as you know, but they haven't changed the fundamental truth about the world or our place in it. Personally, I'm really enjoying Hillsdale College's Constitution 101. I'm going back through it again. It's free. It's a 12-lecture course exploring the design and purpose of the Constitution, the challenges it faced during the Civil War, and how it's been undermined for more than a century by progressives and globalists and liberalism in general. You can take the course at your own pace. Whenever and wherever you work, you can look at it. Let's be honest. America needs more citizens who understand the Constitution, obviously. Look at the members of Congress. We need people that are ready to defend our freedoms against the growing reach of unaccountable government bureaucrats. Start Constitution 101 for free. Look, folks, it's free. How do you spend your free time? Learning about the Constitution. You can tell your kids, your grandkids, your wife, your friends. You'll be the smartest person in the world. Just go to gruberforhillsdale.com. Gruberforhillsdale.com to enroll. There's no cost, no hassle, just great learning, and it's kind of fun. You'll be great at Trivial Pursuit, I can tell you that. Gruberforhillsdale.com. Check that out. All right, coming up in the next program, R.T. Trevino will be here. We're going to talk about oil and gas production in detail in the next hour here on The Steve Gruber Show. Catch it on Twitter, Facebook, Rumble, all those great places. Nice to see you. Good to be back. Live from Studio G and fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom. Here we go into another brand new hour of the program. Warning, the Steve Gruber Show often results in extended periods of American pride, American optimism, and uncontrollable enthusiasm about America's future. Live in all 50 states and around the world, it's a dirty job. But Mike Rowe ain't here, so I'm going to do it. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, TikTok got a stay of execution whilst I was away, and that is a good thing, of course. But how many times will this happen before there's a solution? Number two, the Supreme Court dodged a challenge to some new New York gun laws that many people say violate other recent rulings from the nation's high court. A contradiction for sure. We'll get to that. And number three, Black Monday. That's what Jim Cramer said was going to happen yesterday. Jim, you were wrong again. Jim Cramer, I mean, he's as wrong as the weatherman. I mean, I feel like it's not even fair to the weatherman to say that. It's really not. Let's see here. Pre-market trading now, putting the Dow futures at 38,901, up 736 points. It keeps, bouncing around between 700 and 800 points. It's going up. It's going to be a big day. That's 2% up. Black Monday, big disappointment to the anti-Trump, anti-America crowd. But it was a day for the markets to settle down, it seems. They're down, 300 points yesterday? Around the world, not nearly as calm. In fact, you could say it was rough for stockholders in a number of countries. And yes, it was here too, right? It was, but it seems to be settling down. Dave Portnoy, you know him, Barstool Sports, says he's lost $20 million in the market. And he's still with President Trump through all of it. Here he is.
I went super viral when I said I lost $7 million. I'd kill to be back to losing $7 million. I haven't even looked. If I had to guess, I'm down in these last 3 days, probably close to 20. I don't know, like 10, 15% of my net worth, poof. But I'm still here. That's the game. Am I crying? Am I like, oh, woe is me. I wish I voted for Kamala. No. Do I wish this didn't go down like this? Yes. Am I in this to make money? Yes.
Yeah. Dow futures today, I'm just going to look at it again. Let's see what Schwab has to say about what's happening today in the markets. Well, look at that. Up, up, and up. The S&P, the NASDAQ, the DJIA. A day ago, it had the stocks down 800 points. But they only ended the day off about 300. So, pretty good shape today, it looks like. Plus 724, plus 2%. That's according to, I can go to Business Insider, I can go to Forbes, I can go to FinViz, which is a place I usually go, finviz.com. So the market got all the way down to 37 something, right? Way down to 37 something, but now we might be back above 39,000. Look, President Trump says one country after another coming to the table, 70 maybe, saying, look, let's get rid of these tariffs. Let's get in line. Let's work with America. Right? Here he is.
I will say this. Virtually every country wants to negotiate. If I didn't do what I did over the last couple of weeks, you wouldn't have anybody wants to negotiate. We would have gone to these countries, you want to talk? And they were, well, we don't want to talk. Now they're coming to us. They're offering things like even Bibi, and this is unrelated because it's a different kind of a relationship. But he started off our conversation today that he's cutting all of the tariffs. He's cutting everything. He's going to get down to a free base. He's going to do things that, in all fairness, other countries, if they said that, would have never even thought about doing it. Now they're offering things to us that we would have never even thought of asking them for because they're experiencing a lot of hurt. And the hurt is that they've taken advantage of us and we finally fought back. Tariffs will make this country very rich. We're rich anyway, but we're rich in a certain way. We have $36 trillion in debt. I want to get rid of it, and we can do it quickly with proper deals. So when countries don't allow us to sell our product, but we allow them to sell their product, when they charge us massive amounts of money for the privilege of going into their country, those days are over.
Yeah, those days are over. Good. America first. Fight for this country first. I mean, that's pretty simple stuff, right? You know, but I look at people like Jim Cramer over there at, what is he, CNBC, wherever he is. Just awful. When it comes to making predictions, he's about the worst. And yet he's on the air and taking and giving financial information. I wouldn't say advice exactly, but information. Howard Lutnick, your Commerce Secretary. Scott Bessent, your Treasury Secretary. These are people that have a pretty good idea of how things are working, billionaires. Donald Trump bringing in the best minds in the world. And Scott Bessent, by the way, says there will come a time to negotiate about tariffs and so forth, but we're a long way from being there. Here he is.
Outlined the tariffs on April 2nd and then gave the countries several days to think about it. As I advised on many shows on April 2nd, I suggested that the foreign officials keep your cool, they do not escalate, and come to us with your offers on how you're going to drop tariffs, how you're going to drop non-tariff barriers, how you're going to stop your currency manipulation, how you're going to stop the subsidized financing. And at a point, President Trump will be ready to negotiate. And he had a very, very productive call with Prime Minister, with the Japanese Prime Minister this morning. And he has asked me and Jameson Greer to take the lead on this.
Yeah. Take a lead on this and put America in the lead. That's what this is all about. All right? Take the lead on this. If Taiwan, and we heard this in the last hour, Taiwan, for example, says, look, no tariffs. And other people say no tariffs. It's a good start. Now, to be fair, one of the things I've been reading about, shipbuilding in America. There really aren't any big shipbuilders in America. But we'd like to pull that back from China, which means creating new industries. Creating all new industries. And wouldn't that be something? Bringing back industries that have been, lost to this country. Bringing them back. Now that would be... that would be the best way to go, right? That would be the best way to go. Look, your good health is also important to me. At the Wellness Company, it is as well. If you're looking to take control of your health, at the Wellness Company, they offer doctor-formulated supplements, personalized care to boost your wellness. Whether it's immune support, heart health, just feeling your best every day, that too. They've got you covered. Become a member today. Enjoy exclusive access to expert consultations, premium products, health content. If you're ready to start, if you're ready to take care of your health so that you're in good shape going forward, visit twc.health/Gruber. Using that promo code Gruber will save you 10%. The Wellness Company, your health, your way. twc.health/Gruber. Go there today and get started. I'll take a break and be back. Glad to be back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. right. Well, it is, man, I was gone for what, 10 days? 10 days I was out of here. Really enjoyed it, but it's so good to be back, and with so much going on, it feels like it's important to be back. Just saw a vote by the Supreme Court basically allowing New York State to continue with overreach on gun laws. Not encouraged by that. Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts among those that concern me greatly. But joining me now is Mark Jones, the National Director of the Gun Owners of America, and also directs the National Hunter Outreach Program across the United States. Mark, good to have you here. Thank you so much.
Hey, good morning, Steve. Thank you for having me on the show.
I always appreciate you being here. Look, constitutional carry or concealed pistol license, CPL, like we have in Michigan where I am, or any place else, it's
Right.
not reciprocal. If I drive from Michigan to Montana, before I get to the state line in Illinois, I have to stop my car, unload my handgun, put it in a locked case in somewhere out of reach, out of access, and then travel on. It's the only state between me and Montana same thing. I can drive from here to Florida, no problem. I can drive from here to Texas, no problem. If I head east, same problem. Got to stop, unload my gun. Probably not even legal for me to have a gun in places like Massachusetts. This needs to stop, Mark. What can we do about it?
Well, Steve, that's a great question, and there's exciting legislation moving in Congress. The National Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act passed the House Judiciary Committee last week, and that would essentially make your concealed carry opportunities operate like a driver's license, and you would be able to carry a firearm when you travel, and have those rights would be recognized by the various states, just like they recognize your driver's license.
Yeah.
So it's
My concern, though, is like I said here, I've got the headline right here. The Supreme Court Monday turned away a challenge to recently enacted gun restrictions in New York State, sidestepping a new case on the right to bear arms. The law, which the court previously refused to put on hold, was enacted immediately after the justices expanded the right to carry a firearm outside the home, June 2022. See, so here they are. The Supreme Court rules. The state of New York snubs its nose at the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court says, yeah, that's okay. It just makes no sense to me at all.
No, and it doesn't. And we're facing what I call judicial activism or legislating from the bench here in this country, not just with this case, but with a lot of court cases around the country, where courts justices refuse to actually interpret the Constitution in a logical way, the way we all understand it. The right to keep and bear arms it's a major right. It's not a minor right, and they treat it like that. Unfortunately, they don't do that with your right to free speech, but they do that with the Second Amendment. It's
they do that with the rights of free speech. No. They did. During the last administration, they actively censored and silenced people by way of coming in the back door at social media. So look, they have no respect for the United States Constitution. But my concern is, neither does Amy Coney Barrett or John Roberts. These two concern me the most of the people on this court. They call it a conservative court, but only some days is it a conservative court.
Yeah, I would agree with you. The court, the left likes to call it a conservative court, but it's obviously not. And some of the appointments, I don't know what it is with a lot of the appointments that Republicans make. A lot of times they don't pan out. They change through time. We've seen that repeatedly throughout our nation's history with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Wasn't she appointed by Reagan? And she turned out to be a pretty hardcore leftist. So
Sandra Day O'Connor you're referring to. Sandra Day O'Connor.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's right. Yeah, Ruth Bader Ginsburg came by way of Barack Obama, I believe. But at any rate, by Bill Clinton. And at any rate, constitutional carry means if you're not otherwise prohibited, you should be able to carry a gun, right? That's what it is.
Yeah, well, and essentially what this law would do is whatever rights you have in your given state, they would have to be recognized by the other states. So I live in Wyoming, and I face the same problem you do when I travel across the country. When I get to Illinois, I have the same exact problem you have when I go east.
Sure.
But if this law passes in its current form, states would have to recognize your rights from your given state, just like they recognize your driver's license now.
Right.
And the Second Amendment is a very important right. It's currently relegated to some secondary tier by many states. It's unconstitutional, and this law would change that. President Trump has said he will sign it. Now we got to get it obviously through the rest of the process in the United States House, and obviously we face potential problems in the Senate where sometimes we have fickle members of the Senate that also treat the Second Amendment as a secondary right. But
it's not a secondary right. Look, it's enshrined in the Constitution. You know, I don't need to house soldiers in my house. I think that might be the Third Amendment. I lose track of that one. But the point being is I don't have to. That's not a secondary right. I don't have to house soldiers in my house. I have equal treatment under the law, right? I mean, I can go right down the list of these things, right? Including the right to keep and bear arms. So, Mark, how do we fix it? I'll give you the last word.
Well, we fix it by we're fighting a battle on so many fronts in this country for our rights, as you've already pointed out, our First Amendment, our Second Amendment, and the courts have been fickle. The legislative branch has been fickle, even the executive branch under Obama and Biden. We just have to keep fighting at every turn. And this National Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act is just another battle in the process. And it's not the perfect answer. It's not the end all be all, but it would grant travelers an opportunity to exercise their Second Amendment rights when they travel around the country. So we're excited that President Trump has said he will sign this legislation if we can get it through the process. And so far, at least in the House, things are going pretty good.
Mark Jones, National Director of the Gun Owners of America. Appreciate you being here, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate you having me on your show.
There you have it. All right. Still to come, R.T. Trevino will be here. Pecos Country Energy, talking about oil and gas prices in America, looking at the markets. Looks like they're going to be up today by quite a bit. I'll be right back. Watching the markets here today, as I have been mentioning throughout the program today, the Dow on the move in a good direction. In a good direction. That's right. Let's see here. Pre-market trading, where are we today? Let's look. It's been 600, 700, 800 points up. Right now it's plus 728, up almost 2% in pre-market trading, which will push the Dow to about 39,000, depending on where it ends up for the day. I mean, hopefully we'll be in good shape here. Meanwhile, the European Union apparently ready to negotiate, according to Donald Trump, 0 for 0 tariffs. Eliminate them all. Eliminate all these tariffs, which means cars from Michigan and Mississippi and Louisiana and California can all be shipped into France and Germany and the UK. We'll be on an equal playing field. Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be something? Have an even playing field for everybody. Right. Quite a remarkable thing. And incredibly important as well, right? You know, how can American industry compete if the cards are stacked against them? The answer is they cannot. So anyhow, the EU, the Eurozone, ready to come to the table to discuss an end to all tariffs. Donald Trump, well done. Did you know scammers can literally steal your home right out from under you? The FBI calls it house stealing, and it's a growing real estate scam targeting American homeowners, and here's how it works. Criminals will forge your signature on one document, use a fake notary stamp, pay a small fee, file it with your local recorder's office or the county clerk, and boom, just like that, your home's title has been transferred out of your name. Can you imagine? Then they can take out loans using your equity as collateral or even sell the property behind your back. You won't even know what's happening until you start getting those nasty grams, foreclosure notices in your mailbox. So let me ask you, when was the last time you checked your home title? If you're like me, the answer is never. And that's exactly what scammers are counting on. And that's why I trust Home Title Lock. Their $1 million triple lock protection helps keep your home and equity safe. Here's what you get: immediate 24/7 monitoring of your property, urgent alerts if there are any changes. And if fraud should happen, they'll spend up to $1 million to restore your title at no additional cost. Find out more at HomeTitleLock.com. HomeTitleLock.com. Use the promo code Gruber. You'll save money right now. HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Gruber. You know, I was, as I told you here just a short while ago, I had not looked at oil prices. I don't know, maybe in a month. I hadn't actually looked, and then I was gone on spring break, and I come back. I look at oil prices, $61 for West Texas Intermediate, Brent crude at $64. RT Trevino, oil and gas expert. He runs Pecos Country Energy. He's joining me now to talk more about energy prices. RT, nice to see you again. energy prices down like this, good for America, not great for energy companies necessarily, but I mean, I didn't realize they had gone that low. What can you tell me?
Yes, welcome back, and welcome to hopefully lower gas prices when you get back from your spring break there, Steve.
Yeah.
Right now, as we can tell here, it is great for America. That's the crude truth. We're very excited to see how this economy can only continue to grow. Here, and there's no doubt about it, in the last 2 weeks, we've definitely had a significant drop in the price of West Texas Intermediate and also Brent prices as well, which are the overseas and OPEC prices that we base things off of. In the short term, let's see how this rides out. But right now, the key thing that we're watching is OPEC more than the tariffs. Right now, OPEC is trying to clean house. As we've discussed in the past, they are going to be adding an additional 2 million barrels of oil to the market. However, that's strategically paced over the next 18 to 24 months.
So, all right. So, look, there's a point here. I remember when Dick Cheney said this a long time ago. He said, look, when oil's too cheap, it's bad for America because it basically there's no money to be made by people like yourself or whomever, right? And so there's a point where you're limited on your returns. But right now at West Texas Intermediate just below $61, Brent crude at about 64.5. Is there a point there where it is too low?
I have heard a lot of people talk about the break-even point right now, and that is real. And the break-even point is really where, obviously, you make sure that your employees are paid and your expenses are paid. Everything above that is a profit. So we are watching that, and us small operators here in the great state of Texas, we do like to think we can weather the storm a little bit better because we do know that the price of oil will go back up at some point. However, right now, this $60 is still nothing to panic about. Yesterday and the day before, we did touch 50 over the weekend, which was definitely something we hadn't seen in a while. However, again, I want to just focus on the positives that right now with these lower gas prices, we're going to see transportation costs come down across America. And that's really exciting. You mentioned spring break in the beginning here. We're already past spring break, and we already have projected larger numbers of people that are going to be driving during the summer this year. So we can only expect an increase, which then we could expect an increase in just the positive, goodness that'll bring to the economy.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Look, energy prices impact everything. It's not just the cost of going on spring break or traveling this summer. It's the cost of tomatoes and potatoes. I mean, all of these things are impacted by the price of energy. Your electric bill, your gas bill, your grocery bill, the cost of going to work. Everything is interrelated when it comes to the price of these things. So what I'm getting at is, right now the projection is for 0.1% increase of inflation in March, which means we're below 2% for the year. Inflation's gone. If these energy prices hold, which it looks like they're going to, inflation's gone. It's good for the American economy.
Yes, absolutely. And again, I'm glad you brought up inflation. It's amazing how much of a correlation there is between the price of energy and inflation. Let's just go back 3 years when inflation hit record highs, and all of a sudden the Biden administration quit talking about trying to kill the energy industry overnight because they know how important the oil and gas industry is to inflation, and they tie very much together. And again, what we're going to be looking at here also is what's going to happen with Iran. We know that President Trump has talked very stern about Iran, and we do expect more sanctions to come on Iran for them to produce oil, along with Venezuela. So when those sanctions come into place and when he does put them on, we'll expect somewhere between 2 to 4 million barrels come off the market. And then that 2 million barrels that OPEC will be putting on will obviously then have really no effect. We should see the price of oil continue to just stay between that $65 to $75 price that we do anticipate. And I use that anticipate word very, very carefully this morning to see here over the next several months.
Yeah, so if it stays in that $65 to $75 range, that's good for everybody. The oil companies make money. They're hiring. They're prosperous. More money in the pocket of the working man and woman in America, the middle class. Everybody wins, don't they?
Yes, absolutely. That sweet spot for all of us producers, even the majors, is at $75 oil. If we can really keep that $75 price, we're really looking at, again, the economy thriving, us being energy independent and energy strong. Speaking of that, I do expect that during this time of lower prices, this administration to work with all the majors and all the smaller companies to fill up the strategic petroleum reserve. But again, at that $75 price, we could have our strategic petroleum reserve back up and have real energy security again, because there's no national security without energy security.
Right. So, which brings me back, before I let you go here today, RT, OPEC accelerating production. Look, this is odd to me because, look, OPEC usually wants to drive the price up. By doing this, even if it's over 18 months, they're going to keep that price down, lower. Why are they doing it?
A great question. I actually wrote an article about this in a Substack I have called the Crude Truth Substack. OPEC right now has some infighting. They are cleaning house right now. Even though they're announcing this increase over the next 18 months, they have several countries that are producing more than they were assigned or agreed to do. So OPEC, i.e. the leader, Saudi Aramco, is saying, hey, if you're not going to produce the amount of oil that we're going to tell you to produce, we will go ahead and basically motivate them financially to cut production. So it really kind of happened at a perfect storm, if you will, of the president's tariffs, along with this cut and this infighting in OPEC. Because if you've noticed during our segment today, I have not even talked about the tariffs and how they truly do not have an effect on the price of oil other than just the modern Wall Street uncertainty of tariffs. So right now, OPEC is trying to just clean house themselves to get their countries to fall back in line so that they can just continue to produce, because they understand that if they flood the market, which a true flood the market is what they did in 2014, Steve, 2015, when they tried to kill the shell industry here in America, which they did not. But when they did that, they actually hurt themselves financially. And Saudi Aramco, more importantly, can't afford to do that this time around.
Yeah. Look, right now, by the way, the markets RT all flashing green. Looks like the Dow's going to open up 700 to 800 points higher. The tariffs, not a big concern here today as we bounce back quickly, it seems. RT Trevino, always appreciate you being here, sir.
Thank you, sir. Have a great one.
You too. There you have it. All right, so $65 to $75. A little below that right now. Not at a panic point, he says, but a place a little less than they'd like it to be. $61 to $65 right now. They'd like to get to 65 to 75. So we'll see how that works out. And we'll keep an eye on it. But right now, I know one thing. It's good for you. It's good for America. This is the Steve Gruber Show. Back at it here on a Tuesday. Hey, glad to be back in the chair. I was gone for a few days, as you know, and now I'm back. Glad to be here. My next guest has been on the program a number of times as an attorney for Donald Trump, as a newsmaker herself. Christina Bobb is joining me now. Christina, nice to have you back on the show.
Hey, Steve. Thanks so much for having me. I'm happy to be back.
Glad to have you. Look, I saw with great interest recently you joined Judicial Watch. Congratulations to you.
Yes. Thank you. I'm very excited to be a part of that team. They're amazing.
Yeah. So here's what I want to ask you about. Judicial Watch filing lawsuits, which they do a fair amount of, trying to get answers, trying to, find transparency, trying to get and hold government officials accountable, right? This time, they're holding them accountable on your behalf. Tell us about this.
Yes. So they've actually filed a couple. We specialize in FOIA requests, like Freedom of Information Act, getting information that just kind of takes a long time to get, but we eventually get it. So as you may remember, I was one of President Trump's attorneys. I was involved in the Mar-a-Lago raid and the lead up to the Mar-a-Lago raid, and was interrogated by the FBI and the Department of Justice, and was involved in that case as well as the January 6th case, because I've been working with Rudy Giuliani. So I was kind of wrapped up in all of the lawfare. And I want my file. I want to know what their records were on me, what their 302 notes were, their impressions, and I want to see what they actually put together on me. And they haven't turned it over. So Judicial Watch sued on my behalf to get that. And then we've also sued the Department of Homeland Security, more specifically TSA, because the Biden administration canceled my TSA PreCheck. They just canceled it. So
TSA PreCheck, for anybody who doesn't know, TSA PreCheck is, it's your ability to fly because you're a frequent flyer and people know who you are and they got facial recognition, all this stuff, the cameras, boom. Why would they cancel a TSA PreCheck?
I don't know, but they canceled mine. They canceled Rudy Giuliani's. To me, Rudy Giuliani is like, he's old. Like, what do you think Rudy Giuliani is going to do that's a threat to travel? I don't know. So in my opinion, it's all just harassment, but we need the records to figure that out, right? Like, that's the whole point of having government records, is what was the rationale for canceling all of our ability to travel easily. So we filed lawsuits on my behalf, and we're going to see what we find.
So, I mean, you would think with Pam Bondi or Kash Patel that getting some of this information would be fairly straightforward, but it hasn't been. Why not?
Right. It hasn't been. And I suspect that it will get better as the administration goes on, but there is resistance. And, I can't speak to anything about this case because it's brand new, so there's not really a whole lot to kind of weigh at this point. But as far as Kash Patel and Pam Bondi go and their ability to get access on their investigations, we have seen, just watching it, we have seen some resistance as far as their ability to get their own files on, whatever investigation they want to look into.
Sure.
They appear to be having a hard time.
Well, let me ask you beyond, and I'm going to anticipate you do well. You find out some of the information. You might be shocked at what you find, of course. Maybe not shocked.
I can't wait to find it.
Maybe not shocked. Maybe disappointed is a better word, because you're going to say, really, they did all this?
Probably.
Yeah. But as you peel back that, you're going to find out that they did it not only to you, but to a whole host of people. I mean, you're kind of just in the mix there, right?
That's exactly right. And I think that's what we're probably going to find. And that's one of the things I want to see is, like, how connected was this? I don't believe for a second it was just me. I think there were a lot of people involved, and I'd like to see, what were they doing? What was their end goal with this, and what were they targeting? And I just kind of want to dig into it a little bit.
Well, absolutely, and you should want to dig into it. So, meanwhile, just give me your impression thus far of the Department of Justice, the FBI, the changes made here in Trump 2.0.
Well, I think a lot of the changes are really good. I understand the agents that were part of the Mar-a-Lago raid and the classified documents case have been fired, which I think is good. They needed to be, in my opinion. I would like to see more of a shakeup, but I think the shakeup that we've seen is good. I'm a little disappointed that we haven't had more disclosure, for example, the Epstein client list that everyone's been anticipating. And, some of the inner workings that we all were hoping for that transparency right away. It appears that the career bureaucrats are at least making some headway in obstructing our ability to see that. So that's a little bit disappointing. But I think I like Cash. I like Pam. I think, I think they're very America First oriented. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what they do as time goes on.
Well, an honest Department of Justice would be nice, wouldn't it? One that doesn't target political. I mean, you were targeted, Christina, quite simply because you worked for Donald Trump. There's no other reason. That's the end of it. I mean, that's the beginning, that's the middle, that's the end. You worked for Donald Trump, therefore you were a target, period, right?
Well, yes, I think that's true. I also think the reason they targeted me was because on November 3rd of 2020, I immediately started reporting that the election was off, that there was a problem with the 2020 election. And so they were trying to shut me down because I was hit on both sides, right? I was hit on the January 6th stuff because of my reporting, and then I was hit on the Mar-a-Lago stuff.
Yeah, I've only got about 30 seconds here. Do you think we'll ever know the complete truth about what happened in 2020?
I think it's possible, but we got to clean out some of the junk first. But yeah, I do think it's possible.
And you still stand by your comments, obviously, that there was something very off about that election.
100%, yes, 100%. I believe the election was stolen.
Yeah, there you go. Christina, Bob, I'm glad to see you. Congratulations on the new job. Really glad you're here. Look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yes, thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Christina Bobb, everybody, weathering the storm nicely now at Judicial Watch. Good for her. Glad to have her here on the program. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Brock will tell us about that national championship game that they played way too late for me to see. Who won it all? You probably already know, but we'll have it after the break. All right, time to check in on sports with Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. The Florida Gators are the national champions in men's college basketball as they got by Houston 65-63 in the championship game of the NCAA tournament last night at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. The Gators clawed back from 12 points down to win. Will Richard led the Gators with 18 points. Walter Clayton Jr. scored 11 and was named Final Four's most outstanding player. It's Florida's third national title and first since 2007. Two NBA games last night. Sacramento upset Detroit 127-117, and Miami beat Philadelphia 117-105. In the NHL, there were 5 games. Winners were Tampa Bay, Winnipeg, Calgary, Anaheim, and San Jose. 11 games in Major League Baseball. American League winners included Toronto, Kansas City, and Seattle. National League winners included Washington, Pittsburgh, and San Diego. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock, thank you so much for that. Congratulations to the Gators. And look, Houston, hell of a run. Hell of a run. By the way, TikTok, whilst I was away on spring breaking in Costa Rica, what a remarkable country, by the way. Remarkable. I mean, it was a remarkable trip. 8 days in Costa Rica with Ivy and the kids was just fabulous. We'll get her take on it here in the next hour, of course. She'll join me back because she's back in the saddle too, which is good. But TikTok got another stay of execution for another 75 days. How long does that last? I don't know. But let's just get this done. Let's get it fixed. Can we get it fixed, everybody? Can we? Can we do that? Be nice if we did. Be nice if we did. This part of the program brought to you by Michigan's premier water treatment company, Wolverine Water. Locally owned and operated for nearly 75 years, Michigan people giving you the best water of your life. Support the home team and our good friend Paul Mahaney and his Michigan team, WolverineWaterSystems.com, WolverineWaterSystems.com. All right, in the next hour, you heard me say it, Ivy will be here. Speaker of the Michigan House, Matt Hall, will also be on board with me coming up here on the Steve Gruber Show. Well, here we go. Welcome to it, my friends. Be warned, this program can have a triggering effect on emotions. It can have a long-term impact on the way you look at America. You can be optimistic and believe in this country again. It is the Steve Gruber Show, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom every single day. Glad to have you back on the program. Three big things you need to know right now. Number one, the city of Detroit is looking at how they can tax Airbnbs and VRBO. Of course they are. Coming after the short-term rentals that are probably salvaging parts of the city. Number two, the visa crackdown impacting students at CMU, U of M, and elsewhere here in the state. What about that? And number three, Congressman John James in the race to be Michigan's next governor. We'll talk about all of that coming up in a moment. But first, this. The Dow futures really rocketing up. Dow futures really rocketing up, plus 1,053 points. That would be 2.76% up on the Dow. S&P 500 plus 124, that's 2.4% there. NASDAQ futures plus 404 would be plus 2.3% there. Well over 2% gains all over. And if that happens, well, it's good news for everyone. I mean, the slide is over. NVIDIA up 4.5%. Let's see here. Nanovibronics, I don't even know who that is, but they're up 151% on the futures. I mean, that's something. Who else here? Grab Holdings, 4.5%. Super Microcomputer, over 6%. So, good news. Good news for everybody. Right. Anyhow, let's see. The Shanghai is up. The Indian markets are up. The Australian markets are up. In Europe, the markets are up. Huh. Isn't that something? So there you have it. Looks like a pretty good day ahead on the market. After all that turmoil and all that gnashing of teeth and chewing of nails on Thursday and Friday, looks like we're in pretty good shape going forward. And could be in good shape there. Meanwhile, this, I was gone, as you know, on spring break, spent time in the beautiful country of Costa Rica, Central America. It's been a free country since 1821, when the Spanish Empire it released several countries in 1821. Anyhow, I was gone for a bit, and we'll talk to Ivy about that coming up here shortly. She's going to join us. We'll talk about the great trip we had. But while I was gone, something not too surprising, Republican Congressman John James officially announcing his candidacy to be governor of the state of Michigan. Detroit native, West Point graduate, military discipline, business experience is what he brings to the race. He says after unsuccessfully running for the U.S. Senate in 2018, 2020, he won a congressional race in 22 and was reelected in 24. Donald Trump calling him a rising star. It adds significant momentum to the Republican field. He seeks to replace Democrat Governor Gretchen Whitmer in November. She's term limited out. Faith and family, God and country, service before self. James joins Michigan Senate Republican leader Eric Nesbitt. Democrats have Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist, and Genesee County Sheriff Chris Swanson in the Democrat primary so far. Detroit Mayor's Mike Duggan says he is going to run as an independent. We'll see, because that would not help the Democrats much at all if the mayor of Detroit runs as an independent. Pretty well known and pretty well liked. We'll see where that plays out. We'll see where that plays out. So, a visa crackdown. I bring this to your attention because, the IRS and DHS have reached a historic deal to aid in pursuit of illegal aliens in this country. The Supreme Court just ruled that Donald Trump can, in fact, deport Tren de Aragua, Venezuelan gang members using that 1798 Alien Invasion Act. That's perfectly allowable, apparently. and it was a 5-4 ruling. Amy Coney Barrett is a problem for this court, problem for this country. She sided with the leftists. It's becoming more and more consistent with the way she operates. Meanwhile, at the University of Michigan, students that have overstayed their welcome in the U.S., according to the Trump administration, are going to be told to leave. Also at Central Michigan, the Office of the President, CMU, said the U.S. Department of Homeland Security deleted records of some current and former students in the country on a student visa. CMU officials said neither the school nor the students received notice. They encourage international students and staff affected by this termination to seek legal counsel from the American Immigration Lawyers Association. In addition to that, DHS revoked the F-1 visas of 4 University of Michigan students. At least one of the affected students has left the country following recommendations of U of M officials. Yeah, you're going to have to go. The nationalities of the students are unknown, but Secretary of State Marco Rubio has made it clear that anyone in the U.S. on a student visa is a guest. You have no right to be here. You are a guest. Boy, is he right about that. I am taking actions to revoke all visas held by South Sudanese passport holders and to restrict any further issuance to prevent entry into the United States effective immediately due to the failure of South Sudan's transitional government to accept the return of its repatriated citizens. The Trump administration continues to target what they call the worst of the worst. The worst of the worst. And like I said, the Supreme Court has granted 5-4 the Trump administration's use of a 1798 wartime immigration law to immediately deport Venezuelan gang members. It's the Alien Enemies Act. 5-4. But Amy Coney Barrett joined the leftists. She is a concern to all of us, a big concern to all of us. I can't even begin to overstate how unsure I am of her at this point. Could turn out to be the biggest mistake of Donald Trump's presidencies, plural. Meanwhile, the IRS and the DHS have reached a historic deal. And here is the deal. The Department of Homeland Security and Internal Revenue Service have come to an agreement to permit ICE to access taxpayer information to better locate illegals subject to deportation. The Trump administration filed a memorandum of understanding late Monday with the court to create guardrails and a process for ICE requests to the IRS to further investigations of criminal illegal aliens who have failed or refused to leave the United States 90 days after a judge has issued a final order of removal. The IRS and the Immigration and Customs Enforcement have entered into a memorandum of understanding to establish a clear and secure process to support law enforcement's efforts to combat illegal immigration, so says the Treasury Department. Look, they're going to use whatever tools are at their disposal to find and deport people here illegally who have overstayed their welcome or who have committed crimes. Crimes in addition to being here illegally. Crimes in addition to that. You don't have a right to be here. You have a privilege to be here. If you violate the laws, you're going home or somewhere. Or somewhere. All right, after the break, Ivy will be here. We're going to reflect on the marvelous spring break we just had. It's straight ahead here on the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to see you here. I'm not going to lie. We had a great time on spring break. Fabulous time, in fact. Wildlife and surf, sun. It was beautiful. It wasn't, what was it, 25 degrees this morning? Whatever it was. Ivy's with me. Ivy, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Steve. I'm excellent. Thank you.
Was that you I heard weeping this morning?
As I looked at the thermometer, our little weather station, and it said 21 degrees.
Is that what it said?
Yes.
Oh, good Lord.
It was very chilly. It is very chilly here in Michigan today. And yes, coming back from Costa Rica after being there for a week and it always being 75 to 85 degrees, a little tough.
Little different, yeah. It was a tremendous job. Now, I've been there before. You had not. The kids had not.
No.
What a fun place, though. Affordable, entertaining, surfing, wildlife, zip lining, swimming in the surf, of course, all of that. It was just, it was a great getaway, wasn't it?
It was an amazing getaway. I had never been to Costa Rica before, as you mentioned. The people are wonderful. The food is incredible.
Food.
Oh my gosh. And, you know, so my family is from Puerto Rico. And
say it again.
Puerto Rico.
There you go.
And
Nice
I would
enough.
say that the food rivaled that of my family's. So it was very, very good.
Spanish food.
Spanish food. It is a Central American country, but you know, is a Spanish-speaking country. So it just brought me back to my roots a bit. It reminded me a lot of PR and going there with my grandparents when I was younger. So it just reminded me a lot of that kind of culture. The wildlife was incredible. Seeing toucans flying around or hanging out in trees. They're just so absolutely beautiful. And macaws, you can see them flying.
Parrots, too. I didn't see
Parrots.
the parrot, but the kids did.
Yeah, the parrots just absolutely beautiful green and
Well, you saw them. I
yeah,
didn't see them.
and dart frogs and sloths and coapi. Is that how we say it? Coapi.
Yeah.
Which is it kind of
Coati.
looks coati. So it looks a little bit like an anteater nose, kind of a pointy nose, longer body, and a long tail that's kind of black.
There
and
it is. Look
brown.
at it. There it
Oh,
is.
yes, I forgot. I had sent that over to Anthony. So if those of you watching on the stream can see.
It's related to the raccoon.
It is
Fascinating
related to the
little
raccoon.
creature.
Yeah, very, very cute. But obviously, you know, you don't want to get too close to them.
There's the tree frog. There's a red-eyed tree frog. So we went on a night tour.
Yeah.
We went on day tours, night tours. It's just fascinating. Look, it's Central America. It's part of our hemisphere.
Mm-hmm.
6 of the 7 countries in Central America were Spanish nations. Sail fishing. Look at that.
Yeah, I had not ever been sail fishing before. It was amazing to see them, 100, 200 yards off of your fishing line, jumping out of the water. It usually took about 15 minutes to reel them in, so it was a bit exhausting. But actually, our son, he caught the biggest and the most beautiful fish. It was the first fish to the boat.
Yeah.
Actually, I had to use the restroom, and I was the first to go. I missed my opportunity. But
happens.
he brought a beautiful fish to the boat, just unbelievable coloration. I couldn't believe how amazing it was.
Yeah.
And you can eat them, but we
don't.
We don't. So we just, catch and release there. We were hoping for tuna or mahi, but we didn't end up hooking up on
We'd
any
eat
of
those.
those. But yeah, we did get some fresh from the local market, which was incredible. But I would highly recommend it if you've never been to Costa Rica before. Definitely a place to visit if you're interested in rainforest. Oh, leafcutter ants. We saw those, which were
those
super
are fascinating,
cool.
aren't they?
It was like a stream of leaves with the little ants carrying them. Super cool. I saw a couple of tarantulas in their burrows. Never saw them outside of them.
Had to put a flashlight in there. You could see them back in the.
Yeah.
So if you're creeped out by spiders, don't look in the holes.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But definitely would go back anytime.
people were
It's
great.
beautiful.
People were great.
We did hear though, and I had read this as well because I do a tremendous amount of research anytime I travel somewhere, but that there is some. Like a year ago, the crime was pretty bad in some of the areas, like Jaco, because of the narcos and the drugs trying to come through that area. So, especially because I think El Salvador crushing, its
gang problems.
And so they try to figure out the easiest path.
By the way,
through.
you mentioned that, and I talked to a couple of because as you know, I'll talk to the drivers wherever we go. I'm
Sure.
giving them the 20 questions. They all like President Bukele of El Salvador. They said, we need more of that right here.
Absolutely.
Take the gangbangers off the street. Anybody like that, just get rid of them. No, we didn't have any problem. We didn't see any issues. You know,
I never felt unsafe. I never
Not
felt
ever.
like threatened in any way. I never, there was never any of that for us. And so I would, again, highly recommend going there. I just found it interesting that I think, you know, when we think about the drugs and coming in through the Mexican border and things like that. And of course, you know, if you're thinking about how this journey happens through Central America into Mexico and into our country, I just always kind of like to explore and talk to people and see what's happening in their areas. So a lot, you know, and the other thing too, we talked to some locals. It's interesting to talk to people about the pandemic because they actually could not leave their homes at all other than once a week to go to the grocery store. And so, you know, like...
And a curfew every day.
So you literally could not even leave your house. Like at least in the States here, we could... In Michigan, we were a little bit more tight than other states. But could you imagine like being in a condo and not being able to leave your house other than once a week and you had to go to the grocery store? It's just like, that's insane.
It was insane, yeah.
So,
and they reject all of that now.
It's not something that you ever hear on the news unless you're there talking to the local people. So it's just very interesting.
So would you go back?
I would, yes.
Yeah, go back. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You know, you take vacations in your life. You say, well, maybe I would. Maybe Turks and Caicos? Probably would not go back. We were there a year or two ago.
Yeah.
Interesting enough, but Costa Rica gets thumbs up. Now we're going to look at places like Belize. Belize is the one English-speaking country out of the 7 because it was an English colony. The other 6 were Spanish colonies. We'll look into that next.
Yeah.
Anyhow, Ivy, it was a great trip. I'm glad you were there. Kids loved it. You loved it. I loved it.
Well, of course I was there.
Yeah, of course you were.
I planned it.
Yeah, there you go.
No, it was great. You know, absolutely. You know, it is nice to take a break every now and then, but
it is.
We work hard every day, so we're happy to be back and lots of news to share with you.
Lots of stuff to cover. We had tornadoes and ice storms and, you know, market meltdowns and everything. Look, next time we leave, folks, don't let the country go to hell, all right, Ivy? Love you.
Thank you. Love you.
There you have it, yeah. You guys, don't let the country go to hell while we're away for a few days. We'll be right back. All right, so Tammy Bruce is now the State Department spokesperson. She is the State Department spokesperson, Tammy Bruce, and says that the mission in Gaza has not changed and it will not change. And that mission is simply this: Hamas must go. Hamas must go. No compromise. No negotiations. Once all the hostages are released, whatever ones may still be alive, whenever that's over, Hamas is over. I happen to agree with that. And is that magical? Yeah. Tripping, man. Anyhow, just a little video issue there for a second. Anyhow. Let's see here. The city of Detroit studying how to enact tax on short-term rentals. Why? Every time there's innovation, the first thing that politicians think about is, how can we tax that? The city of Detroit conducting a feasibility study on implementing a municipal tax on short-term rental properties like Airbnb and VRBO. City Council member Mary Waters requested the Legislative Policy Division compile a study that would answer what impact such a tax would have on the local housing market, tourism industry, and city revenues, as well as if any legislative actions are required for the city to impose such a tax. Throughout the state, short-term rentals are a source of controversy. Some communities have banned short-term rentals, which is really ridiculous. It increases property value. It increases property value. Let's see here. Straight ahead, Speaker of the Michigan House, Matt Hall, will be joining me on the program. Public Safety Trust Fund legislation, we'll talk about that. And everything that he's doing now that the Republicans are back in charge of the House in Lansing. I'll take a break and be right back. It is the Steve Gruber Show. All right, so I keep looking, glancing here at the Dow futures, S&P 500 futures, NASDAQ futures, all flashing green in a big way. The Dow futures headed towards being up 3%. The other two at 2.5%. But a big bounce back for the markets today, it looks like. So that's good news, and I wanted to share that with you. Join me now, the Speaker of the Michigan House, Matt Hall, working on the Public Safety Trust Fund legislation. What does that mean? Well, let's bring him in and find out. Matt, welcome back to the program.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me, Steve.
Always good to have you, Matt. All right, so the Public Safety Trust Fund, the legislation you're working on, an extra resource for local communities for police and public safety initiatives. Do tell.
Well, I'll say that since I've been up in Lansing, which is the same amount of time Whitmer's been governor, we came in the same year, government spending has increased 43%, and we've seen a great expansion in new government programs. What I realized is we have unprecedented discretionary money. The Democrats had a $9 billion surplus. They spent all of it with no strategy. What I realized is we need to dedicate money and force the politicians up in Lansing to set priorities. I think one of those main priorities should be public safety. We have some of the most violent cities in the country. You see violent crime rising in some of these cities. And so what we decided, House Republicans, is we're going to dedicate about 1% of the sales tax so it doesn't go into the discretionary money to get spent on splash pads and glass blowing and all these things, barbershop quartets. We're going to dedicate it to public safety. And for the first time in Michigan's history, we propose directly funding local police departments, both our city police, our township police departments, and our county sheriffs to ensure they have the resources they need to hire more officers and to invest in the equipment that our police need to keep our communities safe. And
I want to know more about directly funding law enforcement. Why would the state taxpayers need to do that? What is the cost? What is the result?
Yeah, so what we're looking at is right now the state gives money directly to local governments, and then local governments decide what to do with that money. Rather than give them an increase in that, we're going to dedicate it specifically to law enforcement so that we know it's going where we want it to go, rather than they spend it on whatever they want. We want to dedicate it to police. The total that we're proposing, it'll come to about $115 million, which out of an $83 billion budget, I think we need to set that priority. And what we're trying to do is target the communities that have the most violent crime and get them more police and more resources, more equipment. What Democrats want to do is pass all of this what they call police reform legislation. We're not going to do that. Rather than make it harder to be a police officer, we want to support them and fund them. Now, we require performance. So if we don't see a reduction in violent crime in these cities that are getting this additional funding, they won't be eligible for the funding in the future. We're just going to fund the ones that get results.
And I guess that's the right thing. Something that came to my attention here recently, ambulance services going bankrupt in Michigan. A number of them have. Is that on your radar anywhere there, Matt?
Well, yeah, so there's essentially the state paid for these services, and somehow they were not provided. And so there's some litigation going on right now, and we're waiting to see the results of that litigation. What people are proposing is that we pay for them a second time, since we paid basically, I think the corrections department contracted with a company to reimburse those services. And I think that company hasn't reimbursed the services. So the proposal is for us to pay a second time. I think what we're looking at is to see how this is resolved before we pay for it a second time.
Right. And you know, and you go back to the all the money. You said no strategy whatsoever. All that money spent, and you're just like, wow, how do you blow through $9 billion? And what'd you get for it? I mean, it's like you went and bought, I don't know, nothing. Usually if you spend money, right, you go out and well, I got a new pair of shoes. I got a new car. I did something. I have something to show for what I spent. What do we have to show for it?
Yeah, there was no strategy to the Democrats' spending the last 2 years, and we saw government increase by 43% under their watch. And so now what we're trying to do is set priorities. We want to fund public safety. We also passed, House Republicans led the way on a House package that will fund our roads without raising taxes by prioritizing road funding over the giveaways for the top 10 or 12 most connected corporations in the state. We can do that without raising taxes. We just have to set priorities, something we haven't seen under Democrats. And then we want to continue to support education, including restoring the funding for school safety and mental health that the Democrats cut by 92%. So we have those priorities going into the budget, and then we have to not fund all those lower priorities, and that's how we're going to get the value for your dollars in the budget. Now, what Democrats propose is raising the corporate income tax to protect these carve-outs for the top 10 or 12 most connected companies, and I'm sure you've talked about all kinds of tax increases they're proposing, and you hear them complain about tariffs, but I'll tell you this, these tax increases, those are actually paid for by the consumers, not the businesses.
Right. Once again, stick it to the little guy and the working men and women. That's why, look, I'm hopeful that we can bring more construction jobs back to Michigan, car jobs, all these things. I mean, we've seen this administration squander money, not just the $9 billion, the MEDC and everywhere else. Money just squandered. I don't know if there's a better word for it, Matt. Just squandering money in pursuit of God only knows what, because there's no strategy whatsoever. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, that's right. I know I met yesterday with local police chiefs and county sheriffs, and they said if we get them this public safety trust fund, they will hire police officers right away. They will bring in more equipment. We made sure this will not go to support existing services, but expansion of public safety in these communities. They have a need, and they're going to put it to work, and they're going to lower violent crime. We just have to get it done.
Yeah, we just have to get it done. Greatly appreciate you being here. Matt Hall, Speaker of the Michigan House, trying to make a positive difference for Michigan. Matt, thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Look, if you're going to spend that kind of money, have a plan. All right? I'll be back after this. All right, so continue to tidy up around here, and which will take, some effort here. Very optimistic about the markets today. We'll see how those play out, but very optimistic about that. They open about 45 minutes. We'll keep an eye on that. I want to start with this, though. Hillary Scholten represents Michigan's 3rd congressional district in Grand Rapids, right? She claims hundreds of Trump supporters continue to show up at her town hall meetings to say they are so disappointed that they voted for Donald Trump. And I say this, liar. Liar. Listen to this.
Again, I invite you to come.
I will
to
go. Let's go. We'll go
district.
together. I'll come with you. You come to Eloquent.
The town halls that we have been doing, where we are seeing Republicans and Democrats alike. I went to a county that Trump won by 20 points. Hundreds of people showing up and saying, I'm a Republican. I voted for Trump, and this is not what I voted for.
Let me.
She's lying through her teeth. Hillary, you're welcome to come on this program anytime you'd like. It'll be respectful. It'll be entertaining. What you're saying there is simply not true. Buyer's remorse. Look, drop me a line. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and Rumble and all these places. Go drop me a line. Go to any of these places. Do you have buyer's remorse as a Trump voter? Even with the correction in the stock market, which was very predictable. I know because I predicted it last year. And if you listen to this program, you know I predicted it last year, so it's obviously pretty. If I can figure it out, you can figure it out. And so can other people. Anyhow, that's not true. It's just simply not true. There is no buyer's remorse. Not what she's saying. It's just simply factually wrong. Factually wrong. All right, so President Trump says he's ready for the war in Gaza to come to an end. That is factually true. Here he is.
Americans who voted for you and not for Biden because you've promised them to end the war in Gaza.
Very honored by that vote, too.
The war is still going on and there's no hostage deal. Do you have any update on that?
Well, I'd like to see the war stop, and I think the war will stop at some point that won't be in the too distant future. Right now we have a problem with hostages. We're trying to get the hostages out. We got quite a few of them out, but it's a long process. It shouldn't be that long. We have a big problem that we've done. I think I'll ask Pete to maybe talk about it for a second, because a lot of people are asking the Houthis. We've been very tough and very successful militarily. We've really damaged them badly. These were people shooting down ships and other things, by the way, flying objects like airplanes. And we've put a major hurt on the Houthis, which nobody's been able to do. We've really hit them hard.
Yeah, really hit them hard. No question about that. Mm-hmm. And he's not backing off one bit, by the way, in his ideas of what's going to happen in Gaza. He is staying tough to the mission. And the mission is to end the war, get rid of the Hamas, get rid of the Houthis, get rid of all of these terrorists worldwide, globally. Here's more.
Mr. Berman from the Times of Israel. The IDF is fighting again in the Gaza Strip. I myself might be called up in a month. Do you think that's the way to pressure Hamas to get to a deal? And do you think blocking humanitarian aid is also an effective pressure?
Well, you know how I feel about the Gaza Strip. I think it's an incredible piece of important real estate, and I think it's something that we would be involved in, but having a peace force like the United States there, controlling and owning the Gaza Strip would be a good thing.
Yeah, controlling the Gaza Strip would be a good thing. And one other thing that came up yesterday, big news actually, is he's trying to bring ceasefire to Ukraine, an end to the conflict in Gaza. He also announced that he is working and talking directly with the nation of Iran, trying to get out of any nuclear conflict or problems or military conflict with Iran. Listen to this.
We're having direct talks with Iran, and they've started. It'll go on Saturday. We have a very big meeting, and we'll see what can happen. And I think everybody agrees that doing a deal would be preferable to doing the obvious. and the obvious is not something that I want to be involved with, or frankly, that Israel wants to be involved with if they can avoid it. So we're going to see if we can avoid it. But it's getting to be very dangerous territory, and hopefully those talks will be successful. And I think it would be in Iran's best interest if they are successful. We hope that's going to happen.
Yeah, I would think it would be in Iran's best interest. We'd like that to happen, obviously, to make it a safer world. Look, the Iranian people deserve better, in my estimation. They just deserve better, don't they? Yeah. All right. It's been a great break. It's been a great opportunity to spend time away, and it's great to be back, and I'm glad you're here. And I appreciate all the positive notes of me being back in the chair today, and I got a lot of them, and I appreciate you. I want to say thank you to Scott Bertram, and I want to say thank you to my team, to Anthony, to Sarah, to Nathan, to Brock, to all the people that battled through it. Last week was a disaster while we were away. Not their fault. But you had tornadoes and ice storms and severe weather and lack of internet and lack of power, and they battled through all that. And I appreciate that. You know, Ivy was on the phone a couple of different times trying to help navigate some of the problems. Not really my side of the street, right? Not really my side of the street. She's a troubleshooter, and so is everybody on this team. And so I appreciate that. I appreciate you bearing with us, and I'm glad that you're here today. So it takes a great team. It takes a lot of dedication and effort to make this show possible every day. Not just me. Not just me. And last week, even though we were having a great time, not such a great time for the folks that were here in the home studio. So I tip my hat to the hard work and the people that make it happen every day. I'll take a break and be right back. All right, so here's the last story for the day. The dire wolf. Dire wolf made famous by Game of Thrones, of course. And a company in Dallas, Texas, Colossal Biosciences says they have unextinct the dire wolf. They have 3 young wolves, Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi. And they say they represent an impressive technological breakthrough. But experts say, so they took DNA from a tooth and a bone, thousands of years old. But the critics say it's not a dire wolf. It's just a genetically modified gray wolf. Zoologist Philip Seddon from the University of Otago, New Zealand, explained the animal's genetically modified gray wolves. Colossal publicized its efforts to use similar cutting-edge genetic techniques to bring back this animal, they claim, and they say they can also bring back the woolly mammoth and the thylacine, or the Tasmanian tiger, if you will. Meanwhile, experts pointing to biological differences between the wolf on the cover of Time magazine today and the wolf that roamed and hunted thousands of years ago. Paleogeneticist Dr. Nick Rollins, also from Otago University, explained how ancient dire wolf DNA extracted from fossilized remains is too degraded and damaged to biologically copy or clone. Ancient DNA is like if you put fresh DNA in a 500-degree oven overnight. It comes out fragmented like shards and dust. You can reconstruct it, but it's not good enough to do anything else with. Yeah. They produced a gray wolf that has some dire wolf-like characteristics, like a larger skull and white fur. Anyhow, I don't know. What do you think of that? Should we be playing with... I mean, we've all seen Jurassic Park. Should we be playing God with these animals or just let it be? The thylacine only went extinct in the 1930s. Maybe it can be saved. Anyhow, fight the good fight and keep the faith, my friends. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. So glad to be back. This is the Steve Gruber Show. And remember, my friends, only you can save America.